Hello, and welcome to Woodshed Reviews, where we look at films old and new, good and bad.
The oldest film we've picked is Carrie.
One of your choices, so
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the all-time greats, possibly one of Brian De Palma's best films, if not the best film he made.
definitely a classic based on, I think it was Stephen King's first novel. It's a fairly famous premise, even if you haven't seen the film, you probably know something about it.
Creepy Carrie! Creepy Carrie! Oh.
So we've got a bullied schoolgirl, Carrie White, who's got telekinetic powers, and a very extremist mother.
First sin was intercourse.
I didn't sin, Mama. No,
Say it!
I didn't sin, Mama!
She's trying to do her best, but she's got a lot of forces playing against her.
If you don't have a date for the prom next Friday, would you like to go with me? To the prom?
It's a very strong story, and I think Brian De Palma did it justice. He often gets accused of being style over substance, but I think in this film it's very well balanced. It's a beautifully shot film, and the performances by Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie as her mother are quite incredible.
Stop hurting yourself, Mama! He's gonna laugh at you. They're all gonna laugh at you.
Look, it's not too late. You can stay here with me. I don't want to stay with you, Mama.
She's kind of quite fundamentalist. She's caused Carrie no end of problems and put her into the situation that she's in at the end of the day.
Yeah, she's obviously mentally disturbed, and we see Carrie going to the prom, and it looks like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
But we know in the back of our minds it's going to turn, and when it turns, it's quite something.
It's difficult to imagine people nowadays seeing this film fresh because it's such a iconic scene that everyone kind of knows is coming. And that all comes to kind of a gory head. But yeah, and it's obviously it's got sort of deeper themes in it going on as well, about adolescence, about growing up, about being a young girl, which obviously we can't relate to, but you can buy into the sort of like that school age kind of anxiety and feeling out of place and no one understands you and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, all the kids think I'm funny. I don't want to be. I want to be normal. I want to start to try and be a whole person before it's too late for me to be.
From one absolute classic to another, we've got The Shining, Stanley Kubrick directed film starring Jack Nicholson.
And Shelley Duvall, who passed away recently, one of the all-time classics, and you can put it on any time during the year and you get sucked right in.
Yeah.
It's just a marvellous film.
Jack, don't worry, Mom. I know all about cannibalism. I saw it on TV.
See? It's okay. You saw it on the television.
So basically a family get to look after the Overlook Hotel during the winter season. There's supernatural goings on. The father seems a bit possibly unhinged. He's got that look about him.
It's played by Jack Nicholson, so...
Whenever you come in here and interrupt me, you're breaking my concentration. You're distracting me, and it will then take me time to get back to where I was.
I mean, this is like a totally one of my favourite horror films. I didn't choose it because it was an obvious one, but you know, I'm glad that it's in here because it is an absolute classic of the genre. And you know, that's kind of my favourite kind of horror films. I think the more psychological ones. It's got the kind of sort of horror element as well. Feel like you're in the Overlook Hotel. That's the kind of stuff that I love. You know?
Yeah, the atmosphere is just incredible. And it's just the three main characters, the mother, father and the kid, for the most part.
And the kid's great, you know, I mean, that can often make or break a film when you've got a young kid who's a centrepiece of it, you know, and he's really good.
Come on. Right now. Wake up.
Danny's gone away, Mrs. Torrance.
and you recognise the family unit,
Sure.
and that's probably what makes it more terrifying. It's quite relatable.
Yeah, that's all the best horrors, I think, are a little bit like that, you know. But yeah, it's probably one of the most analysed films in cinema history, I think.
You see, this is a movie about what the past, how the past impinges, any past, and about how to get over that, and how not to be a victim of history.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say. It's an absolute classic. Well worth your time and should be seen regularly.
Here's Johnny!
So we're going to skip forward 5 years to a slightly different film. This is Day of the Dead. This is George A. Romero's third in his loose connected zombie trilogy.
How many has he made?
Well, he did make another 3 much later on in the 2010s or so, but we don't talk about them quite so
Not
much.
so much, yeah.
Yeah. So for a long time, there was just the 3. Obviously, the Night of the Living Dead is largely kind of like considered to have kind of created the modern day zombie, you know, as we know it, you know. Before that, I think it was more of a sort of voodoo kind of idea.
Zombies? Yes. They are my servants.
Then he did, 10 years later, 1978, Dawn of the Dead. That's kind of considered the quintessential zombie film, I think.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
But this one is the lesser known one, or the lesser kind of like revered, I guess, maybe.
Yeah. Is this your preferred film?
Possibly, it's the one I've seen. It's the one I've seen the most. I'll put it that way. It's the one I've seen the most. I'll put it that way. Possibly that's to do with having a copy of it when I was younger.
There are hundreds of them out there. Thousands. 1 million of them. You stick your head in the sun, they're gonna come up behind you and bite off your ass.
I do really like this one because I like the setting of it. I like the characters. I like this kind of microcosm of society that they create. In this underground bunker, where there's scientists who are running tests to try and figure out what's going on, and there's army personnel who are kind of doing the grafting and the protection and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's initially kind of like there's a schism between the two of them, but even within that, there's kind of factions within factions.
Sit down, or so help me God, I'll have you shot.
You what?
I said, I'll have you shot.
You lost your mind.
Nobody ends up really getting on with each other, do they?
Yeah, there's even like the helicopter pilot and the communications guy who are just like, we don't want anything to do with this. We just want to, given what's happened, you know, we just want to have a quiet life, you know, which you can totally understand. And even though the army guy, Rhodes, the main kind of villain, I guess, in it, even though he's totally unhinged and that, you can see where he's coming from.
Apparently he was in the military. Return a salute and see what he does.
You want me to salute that pile of walking pus?
At the end of the day, there's lots of sort of great zombie effects and makeup and head popping and stuff like that from Tom Savini. So yeah, when I was younger, you know, I loved it for the sort of heads being ripped off and innards spilling out into the floor. And now that I'm older, I like it for the heads being popped off and the innards spilling out into the floor. See what I did there?
Very good.
So we go forward maybe a year, is it? 1986, The Fly.
One of David Cronenberg's greatest films, I think.
I haven't seen every single film that he's done, but of what I've seen, it's my favourite.
Yeah, you have Jeff Goldblum as a scientist, and Gina Davis as a journalist.
Yeah, scientist, journalist.
What am I working on? I'm working on something that'll change the world and human life as we know it.
Change it a lot or just a bit? You'll have to be more specific.
Just love the 2 lead actors in this. They're 2 of my favourite actors, and I love seeing them on screen, and they've got great chemistry.
So, what do they do, the phone booths?
Telepods.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jeff Goldblum totally makes it because it's a difficult part to play. He's got to get that just right, where he's got that kind of transformation thing going on and stuff, and just getting those kind of mannerisms and stuff just right, and not being over the top or silly.
He goes through quite a few changes.
Aye, there's definitely all that sort of stuff where he's on top of the world one minute because of the transformation and stuff, and then he starts to realise what Gina Davis has been warning him about.
When you went through, something went wrong.
You know, and it's just got one of my favourite kind of scenes or monologues where he's just in that sort of cusp of turning into pure fly. He knows it's on the horizon, and he's warning Gina Davis. And the music score to that, just my God, that gets me every time. You know.
I'm saying I'm an insect who dreamt he was a man and loved it. But now the dream is over, and the insect is awake.
No, Sam.
Such a tight film as well. A lot of horror films could take a cue from that, definitely.
Yeah, and it just it gets quite icky early on, and it just gets more and more right up to the very end, where it's just full on gore and creature effects.
And it's all proper effects. Things like The Thing and that get a lot of credit for their prosthetics and stuff like that. But I think The Fly is up there for me.
Oh, God!
Couple of scenes maybe where it's a bit too brightly lit and stuff, and it gives the game away a little bit. That would be a minor kind of quibble. Great scene.
Yeah.
But they needed to smash the lights out at that point, you know.
Yeah, keeping in the shadows a bit more.
Yeah, a little bit more, yeah. But yeah, this is a classic. Absolute classics.
We'll be the ultimate family. A family of 3 joined together in one body. More human than I am alone.
No.
It's another one of mine from 1987. This is Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2, starring Bruce Campbell. I just think this is it's better than the original for me.
It feels like a bit of a remake, reboot.
Yeah, it would be fitting for modern times, I guess.
What do you say we have some champagne, huh, baby? Huh?
Sure.
After all, I'm a man and you're a woman. At least last time I checked.
I mean, it's billed as a horror comedy. I guess you could say it's a comedy horror as well in places. I think it's a film that doesn't let up. It just goes from scene to scene with such manic exhibitionism and sort of like throwing everything at the wall, and 90% of it sticks, you know. More and more I watch it, you realise, I mean, how much he did of his own sort of stunts.
There's a lot of painful moments.
Oh, dude. You wrote it, dude.
It looks like he really went through it, and you know, you got to appreciate that. But it's just got a great kind of combination of horror and comedy, and even if, you know, you're not someone that's into horror, this is something I think you could put on and kind of enjoy, you know. There's a lot of campiness about it, but it's enjoyable, you know.
It's a lot of fun.
It just kind of keeps ramping up and all that till the very end when we go into Army of Darkness, effectively. But yeah, that was the original idea that Sam Raimi wanted to do, and he wasn't allowed to do it, I think. They were wanting a bit more of a standard sort of, you know, horror akin to the first one. But I think he made sure that, you know, the next one he was going to make was going to be Army of Darkness, and all the better for it.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. See this? This is my boomstick!
So it's a great double bill. It's a great trio, but I guess maybe for me, Evil Dead 1 feels a little bit redundant. You've got the second one, which is kind of going over a lot of the same stuff and doing it better.
Do you have a favourite scene in it?
I mean, my favourite moments are just when Bruce Campbell's just by himself before the other characters come into it, and he's having to hold the whole film up by himself, and there's a bit when he's kind of like just cracking up, laughing.
Yeah, I was just about to say that laughing scene.
Yeah.
It's so good.
The fact that you know that it's all real, stuff moving about and all that, there's no CGI here and stuff like that. There's people behind the scenes kind of moving stuff about, you know, and they're just doing it so perfectly, and his performance, acting off with all these inanimate objects, is just amazing. I think that's the essence of the film, you know, it's a comedy horror, perfectly captures it in that scene. These are people that were throwing themselves into this stuff, young kids just kind of going for it and just saying, and you know, it could have been a complete mess, it could have been a complete shambles, and it wasn't, you know. And that's, we've got it crystallized on film now, and all the better for it. So.
Groovy.